our special meeting of the Edgecombe County Commissioners to order. Safety instructions, Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon to all of you. I'd like to invite Ms. Bess to come forward to give us our safety instructions for today.
Good afternoon. To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, please listen to the following instructions in case of an emergency. First, please take a moment to note where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, please exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two doors to your right, and then proceed to the nearest stairwell, directions to which are indicated by the exit signs. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Granville Street, which is the street that runs beside our building, to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will provide additional direction and assistance as needed. In the case of a tornado warning, please exit this room into the hallway, where we will all remain until it is safe to exit. And in the event of an active shooter in the building, if there is an accessible escape path, please run and try to evacuate the premises. If you cannot evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found and lock any doors that you can. And as a last resort, and only if your life is in imminent danger, please fight. Our staff will provide additional assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Bess. Prayer, Ms. Harris, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for another day of life, health, and strength. Lord, we thank you for those that are here, those who may be on the way. We ask you continue to be in our hearts and minds to do what is best for the citizens of Edgecombe County. We ask this in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Mr. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The first on the agenda would be consideration of calling for a public hearing for proposed text amendment to our UDO, or Unified Development Ordinance. I'd like to call forward Mr. Durbin Spell, our planning director, who's going to review the recommended amendments and changes since we last met.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. The applicant is Edgecombe County, and the applicant is requesting the addition of crypto mining operation and data center use to the Unified Development Ordinance, in addition to related standards and definitions. And one major change will be to add a neighborhood meeting requirement to the conditional rezoning and plan development process. And one change to that, staff added the requirement that the applicant shall place a ad in the local newspaper a minimum of 10 days prior to the neighborhood meeting. And they are to conduct the neighborhood meeting prior to submission of any conditional rezoning or plan development application. Also, as mentioned before, the operator of data center or crypto mining operation will have to submit an annual zoning compliance permit in January of each year. And along with that application, they are to submit an annual noise study, attestation of water capacity from the water provider, and also if they are using public electricity, attestation of electrical capacity as well. As regarding setbacks, this draft has setbacks at a minimum 100 feet unless a project is bordering a lot, a residential zone lot that has an existing or approved residential dwelling unit in which the setback is increased to 500 feet. And then type C buffers will be required. And then, we just talk about addition, definitions, and abbreviations attached to this use. So the major thing that's added is lighting standards. And we're consultant with our zoning consultant. And his suggestion as far as we approaching the lighting standards were to reference section 6.3 in our UDO that talks about lighting. But also specific standards are added for the data center crypto mining use, which includes building mounted exterior lighting shall not project above the roof or top of the building. Parking lot exterior lighting shall not exceed a maximum height of 30 feet above grade, and no exterior lighting located within 50 feet of a lot with a residential zone lot that contains an existing or approved residential dwelling unit shall exceed 15 feet above grade. And then regarding sound, for projects that borders a lot that has an existing or approved residential dwelling units, sound shall not exceed 60 dBA during daylight hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and shall not exceed 50 dBAs during the night. And in cases where you have a project on properties that do not have a residence existing or approved on the lot next door, those projects can maintain a dBA level of 60 24 hours a day. And 60 dBAs are like a regular conversation, or if you're in the store or restaurant, background music. And I mentioned annual attestations regarding on-site generators. They have to be fully enclosed and meet relevant fire standards and shall receive all applicable state and federal permits. Planning Board at their meeting this past Monday forwarded a favorable recommendation for the addition of this use to the UDO.
Didn't you say that you also recommended that that they had to do a community meeting before they submitted an application?
Well, this would be for projects that will have to seek a conditional rezoning or plan development process. So this use, it'll be allowed as a permitted use in the M2 district. So if they're going on a parcel that is zone M2, they will not have to do the neighborhood meeting.
I'm confused.
So right now, as we talked about, there are essentially two areas in the county that are zone M2, which is industrial, and that's Kingsborough, one other parcel, northern section of the county. What we're proposing for this text amendment would be data centers are allowed in those two zones by right, as it's called, with these development standards. So as long as they show they can handle the noise, lighting, setbacks, all of that, submit a plan, does not have to have community meeting, does not have to come to this board, planning board, because it's permitted in that zone. If somebody wants to try to build one outside of M2, they have to get it essentially rezoned. And if they do, that's when they have to have their own community meeting. Then, of course, as part of the rezoning, we have to have a public hearing as well.
But I guess even with that, to get community input before I've even requested a permit, that's what you're saying?
If it's not in an M2 zone.
That seems to me a little too strict as relate that I haven't even got my feet into the process. But I've got to hear from this community that might be opposed to me. So I favor the community meeting, but I do not favor it before they at least get into the application process, because the community meeting itself could say no to them.
And that's true. And I think the thinking behind it is, part of the application, they have to submit the mapping, all those kinds of things, their plan. But at that point, we're saying you need to have already also checked with the community around where you're planning to go. And because what could happen, the opposite could happen, is they could get pretty far down the process, as we've seen already. Like, say, for example, with solar farms. They could have submitted their application, all their paperwork, done due diligence, engineering, submitted to staff review, planning board, come to commissioners, call for a public hearing, and then the community shows up, and the community is opposed to it. And so what we're trying to do is trying to get the community informed earlier in the process, if they have to get it rezoned.
And my thinking is a little different. I think that knocks this board out of the opportunity for even giving that applicant an opportunity, or even for us to hear, okay, it might be something that we might think beneficial to this community after hearing community opposition. That's just my thinking. I don't know where the board is, okay?
Sure, it's up to the board, and I think it's not that that they have to get the approval of that community.
I understand fully what you're saying. I understand fully what is being said, but to me, the community, our communities could be opposed to something they don't know what it is. Just the name of it, okay? Okay. And I think we need an opportunity. I think we need an opportunity to hear that and what they're proposing and the community opposition.
What if it was after the application but before they went to the planning board? I thought that was kind of the proposal that we were making.
Clarify, what would the steps be as?
And I can buy that, but I don't think we need to require something and we have no application.
Before the application, before the planning board, then the community has to buy in into what's happening.
I can accept that language, okay?
Yeah, so as it stands right now, it's written that the community meeting occurs prior to the applicant submitting a conditional rezoning or plan development application.
I think I would more like to hear, and that's up to the board. I think an application starts the process, and we're saying a community meeting starts the process. Okay.
So I want to make sure I understand, you would want the community
Well,
meeting.
it's not what I want, okay? It's just a discussion on it, okay? It's a discussion for consideration by the board, okay? You seem to,
Yeah, I understand.
you seem to want to have some thinking on this. Go right ahead.
No, sir, I'm just following the discussion.
Okay.
Just to be clear, this action item is to call for a public hearing, so the decisions wouldn't be made today anyway. These things,
Okay, well, good time to have it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Which means that if in fact we got some thoughts on it, it could come back to us cleaned up.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I was kind of the opinion of the chair on that, is kind of how it would go, that we take an application and then ask them to engage the community ahead of the meeting, as opposed to engage the community, then submit an application.
Gotcha. So I just want to clarify the proposed process. They submit an application, it then goes before the planning board, then they hold.
No, what he's saying, the application and then the community meeting. We just-
That gives them two opportunities to speak at the planning board to make adjustments, and then to bring the planning board to make a recommendation that comes to this board.
That gives them an opportunity. Got an application in, you're right. They hear from the community, and the community got concerned it can't be changed before it get to the planning board. And even at the planning board, after that, there's a possibility to come here, and other changes can take place.
Or to have another community meeting after the planning board.
Right,
It
but
allows them some more opportunities to engage.
They're still, I'm saying, I don't think the community meeting itself should be the determining factor as to where it be heard by the planning board and us. And I think that takes care of it. That language to me takes care of it.
So they submit an application,
And then the community meeting.
then the community meeting, then they go before the planning board.
What is it thinking of the rest of the board?
I agree with that, because you don't even know if they don't submit the application, technically, you don't even know they're doing anything. So you gotta.
And just to say, this standard will apply to all conditional rezoning and plan development requests, not just data centers.
Would that be that was what was being proposed? Is that what you were proposing, or just for the data centers?
This is what was being suggested for this added to all conditional rezonings and plan development requests.
Yeah, I think it should be across the board.
It'll be
Want
consistent.
anybody to see like we're judging them differently from we're judging anything else.
Any other thing from the board?
I like that language change a lot. I mean, I think it really engages the public in what that process is, but allows staff to make, staff and boards to make adjustments, listening to public, listening to applicant, And then it's ultimately the board's decision at that point.
And the petitioner has an opportunity to hear from the community and make some adjustments just before it gets to the planning board. Okay.
I had one more question about amendments. If we're saying if they generate their own power, that they do not have to make a power attestation. Shouldn't they still have to make a power? I would imagine that there's going to be something that they have to connect to our grid in order to build.
And if they do, they have to have an attestation done, if they have to plug into it at all, correct?
That is a part of our ordinance that they would have to.
Well, part of what's recommended.
So particularly in data centers or projects that are going to generate power, and they say that they're going to give power back to the community, there's going to have to be a connection there. So I don't think that language is necessarily necessary, stating that if they just take their own power, if they have their own power, they're not going to have to make, because I assume that any project that's built of that scale is going to have to be connected to the grid, even if they don't pull from the grid.
Sure, we can make that change. I think the thinking was what we were trying to protect ourselves from was somebody plugging into the grid and taking in too much power and we not be aware of that. So you're saying that we need to know that regardless.
I would think so, because even if they say that they're not going to use that much, then we have the power to say, well, this is your attestation, is that you're not using that. So, but I would assume any project of an M2 magnitude is going to have to connect to the grid, whether they necessarily plan to use it or not.
Or at any given time, stay connected for a while. If the other, if their source gets a shortage in it.
I think it protects us, really, because it allows us to have something in writing stating, if they say, well, now we need power, we've already kind of got that on paper.
Sure. Okay. So, yeah.
Any other comments? Hearing none, the requested action is to call for a public hearing at our November meeting. Is there a motion?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the public meeting is called. Next one.
Next, we have in your packet a few budget amendments for your consideration. You'll see budget amendments 1 through 3 are those that require your approval. Budget amendment number 1 is to appropriate funds received from the Governor's Highway Safety Grant Program in current fiscal year. Budget amendment number 2 is to appropriate funds received from an insurance claim. And budget amendment number 3 is to reallocate funds from salaries to to contract labor line. This ties back to the contract that was approved back at your last regular meeting in Department of Social Services. The others are for your information, but happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Is there a motion? Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the voting sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. Next, Mr.
Next is for revision number 2 to Capital Projects Fund Ordinance. You have for your consideration revision number 2. This revision will add a donations line to the ordinance. Also, a donation has been received to go towards the construction of the new animal shelter. These funds are in the amount of $19,000. With the approval of this revision, will be placed in the contingency line of the project. It's recommended that you approve the enclosed capital projects fund revision as presented. I will note that the person who donated the funds donated them with the intent of us including the building construction of a play area for the animals. That was not included in the original scope of the project. So it's basically a concrete pad inside of a fenced area. So we're grateful for the donation and recommend that you approve the ordinance revision as presented.
Motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions?
One question. Is this the funds that were raised as a part of the initial, this is separate? Because that's intended for furniture
That's
and
correct.
furnishings.
That's correct. And that total, I'm glad you asked that, that total was 72 or 70?
In that ballpark.
72, 73,000 to go towards furniture, supplies, all of that has been ordered, so make sure it's here ready.
I just want to make sure that was protected.
This is in addition to that.
I've heard of some stories where they built the animal shelter and didn't have the ability to put in the furnishings, so I wanted to make sure that that was.
Yeah, yes. We didn't want that to happen.
All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none is approved. Next.
Next, you have actually all contract amendments, change orders. The first two are for our non-emergency medical transportation, which is paid by Medicaid, as you may recall. Through our Department of Social Services, Ms. Battle and her staff, they identify providers to provide that Medicaid eligible service in the county. Our primary provider is Tar River Transit, and our secondary provider is WW Fast Movers. We approve the rates that they submit those to the state, and then as they provide the service, they bill directly and are paid directly from the state. As a result of the federal shutdown and additional funds not yet being appropriated from the federal government to the state Department of Health and Human Services, DHHS has determined that they are cutting some rates for Medicaid-related services, including this service. They've done a 3% rate cut, and so the two vendors have already been informed of that, and we need to catch up to that to make these contract amendments to be retro to October 1st, which is the date of the change of the state rate. Also, you have a change order number 6 for A.R. Chesson for the animal shelter contract. This is to add that concrete slab, as I mentioned, for the play area, as well as one additional item there that will take that contract up by $23,614.34. And then the last one is change order number 7 for RL Architecture, who is the architect for the project, and this is increasing the contract by almost $1,900 to add for the printing of building plans, multiple sets of building plans that we'll need for maintenance of the building that was not included in the original scope. Recommend that you approve those amendments and change orders as presented.
Motion? Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, they are approved. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, on the agenda, we're scheduled to go in closed session to discuss an attorney-client privilege.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, that should be for discussion of economic development per North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A4. That should be for economic development.
That's all.
Yes, sir.
As the county manager has stated, is there a motion to? Is there a motion?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. At this time, we will be in. Mr. Wood? That's our legislators. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, people used to leave it and probably didn't realize we were in a meeting.
You back in?
We back in? Is anything coming open session
Nothing from staff, Mr. Chairman.
from the board? Hearing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Second? Questions? All in favor, let me know by vote, sign aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
I let you all do it today.
Thank you.